I'm Sarah Spencer. I'm a Professor of Neuroscience at RMIT University here in Australia. I'm here with Professor Elisa Hill on camera and Professor Tracy Bale. Hi Tracy, welcome to Australia.
Hi Sarah, thank you. I'm Tracy Bale, I'm the president of IBRO and here in fantastic Perth, Australia. Sarah and I just having a little chat about neuroscience and all the wonderful aspects of IBRO.
So, how have you found Australia so far? Have you found any creepy crawlies that might kill you, or any
Thankfully,
crocodiles to wrestle with?
No, I love Australia. I've been here many times. This is my first trip to Western Australia, though.
Me too.
Thus far, no spiders, no snakes, no crocodiles, all good.
I guess you're here in Australia to be part of the Australasian Neuroscience Society, which is the neuroscience society that brings together researchers from Australia and from New Zealand. And Tracy's been invited to come as the international plenary speaker for our meeting this year. How have you found Australian and New Zealand neuroscience since you've been here?
Fantastic. So many great neuroscience colleagues as I'm sitting here with you all. I find it to be really engaging. Lots of great questions, lots of intriguing collaborative ideas. I also got to be a judge during the National Brain Bee, which was yesterday for Australia and New Zealand high schoolers participating in the Brain Bee, and their finals live question was yesterday. It was super fun.
That's cool.
Such brilliant minds, really. I mean, think about those questions when you're that age in high school. Could you have answered them?
Yeah, not at all. I've noticed how Australia's gotten so much more collaborative lately, with lots of really broad international collaborations and use of data sets from around the world. So I've been really noticing that at this meeting.
So lots of computational sorts of collaborations. I've noticed at the end of talks, people talking about the community of partnering with data sets within Europe or the US or Canada. And so I think with the advancements in the computational world, it really makes science around the world collaborative.
And all that bioinformatics that I know nothing about. So Tracy, you've been here in Perth to represent your own research group and talk about your research, and you gave an amazing presentation last night. That was really inspiring and incredible.
I'm not sure my brain was in the right time zone, but
I wonder if you could give us, maybe for those people who haven't been able to attend ANS, if you could just give us a quick recap of the really important points from your talk.
I spoke yesterday really just talking about what I always start off my talks with, I think, one really important point for all of neuroscience and science in general around the world, which is thinking about community. And one of the things that I love about both New Zealand and Australia is that every time I visit, I am blown away by the acknowledgement and engagement of Aboriginal peoples and the way in which it's presented. It's welcoming. There was a lovely welcome to country yesterday, and I recently was at a conference in New Zealand, and the same kind of thing. It's incorporated throughout. People acknowledge the lands, and I think as somebody who works on stress and trauma and effects on the brain, I think it's quite amazing and impactful to have that awareness. It's something that the U.S. could be much, much better about. So I love talking about community and ensuring that as we as scientists spend lots of time communicating with each other, that we're also mindful of the communities that have had these experiences, that we're good at listening to their questions and concerns, and really importantly, that when they're involved in your research, that the information that you learn returns back to those communities so that they learn as well from our studies. So we talked about that. We talked a lot about extracellular vesicles, which I think are just a great potential for serving as unique biomarkers that are really informative for understanding the brain, communication between tissues, how they're so important for maintaining homeostasis, and then using them as a marker for when those processes have been disrupted by trauma or stressful experiences or aging. Differences between males and females is always also very informative.
It was really interesting to hear the perspective of stress maybe not necessarily being a bad thing, but the responses to stress being an evolutionary response, and maybe the stress to the father can sort of speed up the development of the sperm. So that was really interesting to just apply to thought processes for a lot of research, I think.
Yeah, we often, I think because we're all trained to think about your science in terms of writing that grant, and so so people often interpret a change in their research as something that's bad, something's different, but evolutionarily that really wouldn't make sense. And so I think in certain environments, being able to cope in a different way to adversity or stress might be beneficial. And certainly after war or famine or a pandemic, thinking about reproductive processes that may be advantageous to a population may be detrimental to something like mental health, right? So those two things could exist together, where you could have more individuals in a population, but perhaps the fine-tuning and the development of the brain has suffered at some point along those processes, such that you now interact in your environment differently, and that puts you at risk, of course, depending on your genetics that you inherit.
So there's that trade-off.
Right, exactly, right? We can't do a lot about our DNA, except try to understand it.
So, Tracy, you're, in addition to being an amazing researcher, you've put in a lot of time in a lot of different societies and committees. One of the hats that you're wearing, one of the many hats that you're wearing at Australasian Neuroscience Society is to represent the International Brain Research Organisation. So, Tracy, you're the president of IBRO. I'm one of the chief editors of Neuroscience, which is a journal that is owned by IBRO.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been a really interesting challenge so far. Tracy, you came on board as IBRO president at a really interesting time. We were 2019 and we were just about to head into what would become the COVID pandemic.
Yes, it was an interesting
time.
That
you weren't anticipating that when you took on the role. What do you think has been your biggest achievement?
Well, so one, I'm the first female president in the history of IBRO. Thank you. Never get tired of saying that. So IBRO is 57 years old. It's the oldest neuroscience society organization in the world. So it's older than, for instance, Society for Neuroscience in the US. And in its history, it's all been male presidents. Largely, if not almost exclusively, from Western Europe. And so the thing that I am most proud of, in addition to being the first woman, is to bringing back an awareness of inclusivity, diversity, and the value that we find when we are inclusive, making sure that everybody comes to the table, has a seat, and gets heard. And I think that is critical for now more than ever around the world. You know, as we started off this conversation about how great it is to have this collaborative neuroscience community, that is, our science is just better when everybody gets to contribute. It's more creative, it has different unique perspectives, and if you always invite the same people, you're always going to come up with the same answers, and that doesn't benefit anybody, much less science. And so I think I am really incredibly proud that we have really gained back buy-in and trust and engagement from a broader community. IBRO is divided into 5 regions, so the entire world belongs to a region, and that region has a regional committee. And the regional committee, because we are a bottom-up organization, we have this huge budget that the revenue from which comes from the hard work that you do, Sarah,
the hard work that all
and
of our
Francesca and
authors do.
Jen, at the journal, through our publisher Elsevier, and that money goes all back out into the community. So it's fantastic. You know what I love? I love going to conferences like this and engaging with the trainees and early career investigators and just chatting with them about all of the opportunities to do collaborative science, to travel to conferences, to participate in schools, and it really does enrich all of our science. And so I think that is especially exciting, and I hope, as Shaba Tol, who is the incoming new president, I only have 1 year left, Shaba will take over, and so she'll be our second female president of IBRO from India. And how great is that? The slate of candidates was really remarkable for our election this year. I'm very proud of that, and I hope as we go forward, we continue to be this engaging and diverse organization.
What do you think the biggest challenges are going to be for the next president coming in?
I think the world is constantly changing, and I think it's never going to stop being the best way to discuss and collaborate on science is our ability to come together. We all can participate on Zoom, and Zoom has been tremendous, right? It allows us to connect around the world and save money on travel. Climate change effects of travel, so all of that is very important, but there is just something about our abilities to come together and share a meal and have a conversation. And I think especially it's super impactful for trainees. I think they just get something out of an in-person meeting that you just don't get. During the pandemic, we had lots of conferences online, and listening to a seminar, that's fine, but doing a poster presentation as a trainee, that's rough, really online. It's really rough. And so I think there is a draw to the conversation that you have, getting asked questions, being able to explain your science.
And they get to meet fabulous people.
They get to meet fabulous people. They get to meet fabulous people, and I do think that it continues to draw them in. And we don't want to have the brain drain where they decide that it's too much work or it's too hard, and they're gonna. So I think the challenges moving forward are going to figure out creative ways to keep in-person meetings without the awful impact on the climate. I also think that financially, not all of the world has the resources to travel. So for instance, the IBRO World Congress, which only happens every 4 years, next will be on the continent of Africa, which it's never been before, which is very, very exciting. But in planning that conference, which will be in 2027, just being aware of, even within the continent itself, how different countries, visa issues, lack of resources, et cetera, make it really difficult and very complicated to figure out who can travel where. So that's something that the organization is very aware of. And I think that oftentimes we forget that not all of our colleagues have the same resources. So back to the computational point, that I think, for instance, many of our colleagues in low and middle income countries are now seeing the value of doing a dry lab, of taking data that is publicly available and being able to ask questions of that data, which is great because we all contribute to that wealth of data. Wouldn't it be great if other people had access to it and could learn from it? So Sarah, how about you? What do you think is looking forward to some complex questions in the future, especially as editor of our journal?
So the editor role has been immensely engaging and challenging and fun. It's been so rewarding to be working with Francesca Cerulli and Qinsang from Italy and from China. I think we've made a lot of changes in the year that we've been underway, and it would be great to be able to tackle some further changes. I would really like to be able to enhance the number of papers that we publish that are examining both male and female subjects. We're seeing a bit of a paucity in female research there, so we would really like to encourage that. We are tackling the reviewer problem, and we've been having
that's a tough one.
A lot of conversations at this meeting about how hard it is to get reviewers. So we need anybody who's watching this to commit to reviewing papers, and your the critique that you provide to a paper helps the authors make their paper better and improves neuroscience globally for all of us. So it is a really important. So I had one more question, and the question was about the IBRO presidency and what has been the most fun thing.
Oh my goodness!
It's traveled all these wonderful places.
I have had lots of opportunities to travel, and I've meeting so many colleagues from around the world has been just a fantastic opportunity, and that's just incredible, just to see the kinds of neuroscience and passion that our colleagues have around the world, many of whom have just so little in the way of resources. I think it's surprising to many of us that individuals would actually use their own paycheck in some cases to do their research because they're so passionate about it. And just the opportunity to feel connected, like others want to come and listen and participate in the science and engage in it, I think is really an honor and a privilege. And just getting to see the trainees make progress in their research around the world is also incredibly exciting, and I think the future of neuroscience is very bright.